absolutely love sci-fi movies because, well, it gives you a glimpse into the future, a glimpse of what the future could be for us, a better future. I'm not talking about an alien coming out of a stomach going, ah! No, not that stuff, the good stuff. Stuff that you see on Star Wars or Star Trek. It's just the goodness of humanity all coming together. So when a car company presents itself in the same manner, it's a great thing because it's got new tech and it's for the future. When they actually build a product that's of new tech and for the future, then that's even better. Then you've got the trifecta. When you've got all of that and then you make it available in the Philippines. That for me is the absolute best. And that is exactly what this car represents. This is the Weltmeister W5. It is a full EV crossover available in the country. Now, it's not the first, obviously, because you've got the likes of BMW, you've got Audi and whatnot with electric vehicles. But those are all more on the premium price of it. This, believe it or not, is actually closer to the price of the Nissan Leaf. Now, before we get into it, just a quick history on Weltmeister. It started in 2015, but they didn't push out their first production vehicle till about 2018. And ever since then, they've sold about 30,000 units. Now, the guy that started Weltmeister by the name of Freeman Shen. Now, this Mr. Shen dude kind of knows what he's talking about because he did start off prior to that with Geely and then had a stint with Volvo. So he knows what he's doing. Now, it's worth mentioning that there are two models of the W5 that are available. There is the 500 plus range, and then there's the 400 range. The 400 kilometer range is what I'm trying to say. I do not know if the 500 kilometer plus range is just an option with a larger battery or if it has more features inside. But I will be able to tell you today what is available locally in the Philippines. This W5, the 400 kilometer range, actually in real world, 350, 360 kilometers with Metro Manila traffic. But I will be able to tell you what this particular model has and obviously tell you also the price. But before all of that, obviously, I'm going to tell you what you get on the outside, tell you what to get on the inside, tell you what you get, well, underneath really, and tell you all in all just exactly how much this particular car is. And we're going to start off with the logo. Now, it may kind of look like the logo of Cisco or SoundCloud or even Spotify. Well, yeah, I'll give it to you. Yeah, it kind of does resemble that. But it's actually more than just a logo and more than just lights. It's actually, much like your cell phone, a battery indicator. So when you're charging the automobile from the outside, you can tell if you're full or not. Speaking of charging, it's found right here. Pop that open this, and bada bim, bada boom, that is where you charge the automobile. Then, of course, you've got your sensors found down here, or rather your camera down here, and then sensors all around. Sleek LED headlamps with DRLs found down here. Now, obviously, there is no grille because there is no engine, so to speak, to cool off, but there are slats underneath to cool off any electricals that you might have. We've also never done this before. The car is actually running right now. So we've never done a review where or rather a walk around where the engine's running because it's just so quiet. And if you touch the hood, yes, it's warm, but it's not warm because of the engine. It's warm because of the sun. That's pretty darn cool. Down the side, you've got 18-inch wheels wrapped in 55 series tires with disc brakes up front, ventilated up front, and discs at the rear. You've got your repeaters on the side mirrors, your roof rails up on top, more cameras for your 360-degree view, and then ground clearance is roughly about, well, it's good enough to take off-road. I'm not saying that we took it off-road. I'm not saying that we didn't. So if you're wondering about the dimensions of the automobile, it's closer to the likes of the CR-V and the CX-5. Actually, much closer to that of the CX-5. And I know you noticed that the door handles are flush to the car. So there are actually two ways of opening the automobile. One is basically you just push this side and then it kind of pops up, which is the badui corny side. This is the future. Press a button because, well, we're tamad. Let's go to the rear. At the rear, you've got a slim light that stretches the entire width of the car. It is not a brake light, however. I would have liked to see sort of like a very large brake light, much like you find on an Audi or a Porsche. But this is a park light. Your brake lights are found up here, and of course, your third light back up here. Sensors all around, and then oddly enough, I have no idea why there isn't a tailpipe. Strange. Also, the logo here at the rear that forms a W and an M, I bet you didn't see that. This one doesn't light up unlike the front, which would have been nice if it did. Open her up if, yeah, it's here. There you go. This is kind of like a slow boat to, well, yeah, to China. It's actually quite slow. But once you do open her up, you're looking at 488 liters of space, which is huge, truthfully, and that I can expand to over 1,500 liters of space. Underneath that is you will find the portable emergency charger that comes with every purchase of the automobile. Actually, when you purchase the automobile, it comes with a home charging kit that you mount on the wall and you plug it in, or it's plugged into the system of your house. This one is the portable charger, which you can bring obviously with you. And I don't know if you can see this, it's a tri-prong, ta-da, right? It's a tri-prong. And before you think that you're gonna charge it up front, no. The emergency charger, once you plug it into the wall, goes into the side. Flip that open. Bada bing, bada boom. Shomai. I gotta also let you know that we do have figures for the slow charger, which is, it'll take about an hour on the slow charger to get you about 20 kilometers of range. Now, the speed of exactly how fast it charged with the charger up front. Obviously, it's much faster. Unfortunately, we don't have the particular figures for that, but perhaps in the future, when we get this car again to do a proper review, which we hope you will subscribe to, we can give you all those figures that you definitely want. Definitely? Bisaya ka manggi. Dili oy. Now, the rear seats provide you with a pretty basic crossover feel and seating position without the mosquito. Okay, so first thing I noticed was, I thought this was actually a parcel hook. It's not. So I guess that's one of the features that perhaps may be available on the 500 kilometer model range. Another is, I thought that I would have air controls or temperature controls also here. Unfortunately, there are none. But I can tell you what is available here in the back. I'll tell you that it's a good amount of space. Headroom for a person like me is no issue. That's actually pretty large. Leg room is actually pretty good too. That's Jack's normal driving position, and I've still got a good amount of space that I can even cross my legs. Elbow room is good if you, or great rather, if you're two average size adults. 3 adults back here, I think it can be, because in the center, there's actually no tunnel. See, it's actually pretty flat. And then the fact that everybody in the back actually gets their own, technically their own air vent, because here up front, you've got 2 air vents here, one here and one here, and then one here at the bottom. Now, this one just goes straight. These you can tilt ever so slightly, but if you tilt it too much to the left, this one too much to the right, it cuts it off completely. Just a little weird. You can only move it side to side. You can't move it up and down. But at the very least, there are still air vents. Toys, apart from that, include also a USB charging point here at the bottom. I would have actually expected more charging points, considering that this is, after all, an electric vehicle. But then I figured you might be taking too much juice out of the car. But then what are we talking about? It's just a USB port. So again, I would have expected maybe USB ports, maybe. A center armrest with cup holders for small to medium-sized bottles. Jack's bottle definitely will not fit in here. I don't even want to try. And then, of course, bottle holders on either door, speakers, and that's about it. Oh, you also get a share of the panoramic sunroof up on top. This is actually pretty cool. This is already the lower model, and it comes with the panoramic sunroof. So just imagine what the higher model could actually have. But again, I don't want to speculate. We're not talking about that. We're talking about this particular model that's available in the Philippines. So overall, it's a pleasant experience back here. Even on longer drives past 200 kilometers per hour, passengers here in the rear... Per hour? Oh, sorry, 200 kilometers, not 200 kilometers per hour, which we would never, ever do. But I'm saying that over 200 kilometers distance, passengers back here, no issues. Let's move to the front. Okay, so up front, like I said earlier, this was, wow, it's hot. The seat is hot. It's a hot day. This is Jack's normal driving position, so I'm going to put myself in my normal driving position. So there was already enough room in the back. Now there's probably a lot more, considering that I drive so much closer to the steering wheel than Jack. Okay, what you get up front, we'll get to the obvious parts later, but let's up front is a full digital instrument cluster. It gets you also some information that's happening on your infotainment screen here on your cluster, so that you don't have to take your eyes off the center, that you don't have to glance over there. On the steering wheel, you've got your cruise control, but it's not adaptive cruise. You've got functions for your infotainment screen here. Lights and wipers and whatnot. Obviously, a couple of buttons here on the left side to open and close the hatch at the back, and then of course power seats, not just for the driver but for the passenger as well. And the steering wheel is also telescopic. That takes care of this portion. Let's go to this portion. There's some impressive stuff and then some not so impressive stuff. Like the not so impressive stuff would be the fact that, well, there's a mirror, but there's no light. This is an electric vehicle, but this is a manual fixing mirror with that. It's not even auto dimming. That's kind of sad. Cool though that there's a button that says SOS. So if that's programmed properly, if you're in trouble, all you gotta do is press that if it's connected to your phone, and it should dial the authorities or the paramedics to help you in need. Okay, getting to the main meat of what the EV. This large screen that you obviously can't miss, this thing is 15.6 inches large. This thing is bigger than the first flat screen that I ever bought myself in my entire life. Yes, that's actually a fact. In the higher model, as Jack tells me, this actually can go into panoramic mode. Why, I'm not sure, but obviously in this particular model, it can't. So I think it's fine the way that it is. It's got a lot of cool things, which we'll get to in just a minute. Down here, you can lock and unlock your car. It's also touch. You've got child lock there. This controls your air on and off. Press this button, and then the screen goes blank. It's supposed to go blank. There. It's closes the screen so that it's not too bright when you're driving at night, I guess, and you can turn it back on by pressing it again. Some of the functions that you can find inside on the infotainment screen is you've got functions for your phone. You can get to your call contacts and whatnot immediately. And then you go to the settings of the automobile. This is for the brightness. You can go with lights and sounds, door locking, driver assist, and whatnot. And then here's the cool feature about it, is that you can tell your power consumption over 10 kilometers, 25 kilometers, and so on and so forth. It gives you per kilowatt over 100 kilometers range, and it tells you, it's got a power consumption meter. It's actually pretty cool. We actually haven't figured out how to read this particular portion just yet, but I'm sure that when you do own the automobile, then this will be as important as a trip meter and as a fuel consumption meter that you have on your ICE engines cars, or rather internal combustion engine automobiles. You've got your settings, which will tell you the tire pressure on all the tires on the outside, obviously, because it's not going to tell you the tire pressure of anything else. You've got your 360-degree view camera. That's actually pretty cool. Then you've got your phone, music, and a camera, which obviously you can turn on. There is no SD card here, but this is actually your driver view camera, your dash cam, which if I put my finger there, ooh, you can actually see. It doesn't work at the moment because we haven't put in an SD card. Now, the bad thing about all of this is that this screen is so large and you'd like to be able to utilize as much of it as possible, but the weird thing is, the one thing that you're going to be using it most of the time is connecting to your phone. And the odd thing is that although your phone is here, the biggest button to dial and make calls and whatnot, but the other functions like your map controls, your navigation controls, your music and whatnot is actually in the smallest button possible, which is all the way found down on the bottom, which is really strange. And then here's the bad part, the really bad part. Unfortunately, in this particular model, no matter how, is the music playing? How do I get, okay, here, okay, the music's playing and I gotta turn the volume down. I know how to do this. Where is the...
Yeah, look for it. No?
No?
It's a physical button.
It's a physical button. You're joking.
Yep.
It's a physical button to turn down the music?
Think of it like a tablet.
A tablet. Really?
Somewhere. There.
No, they're buttons? Oh, okay. So if I press this button, that means the screen should turn off.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. Well, that does that. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. The bad part is, unfortunately, it does not come with Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. Now, I grew up, I guess I'm Generation X, is what you could call it. So Android Auto and Apple CarPlay are not too important to me. But to think that a car of the future doesn't have what most cars of today already should have, yeah, that's kind of a bit on the low side. And then there's the fact that the air vents up here, which are actually nice, it cools the car off very, very well. The air vents found here underneath, if you can come here, these move like conventional air vents, right? Side to side, up and down. But the air doesn't just come from there, it comes also from up here. And up here, you can't direct the air yourself. It's a swinging kind of a thing, much like a normal air conditioner that you have at home. It's very bizarre. It cools. Instead of individually cooling, it cools the cabin off. So I was kind of hoping you could control that. But anyway, so there's that. And then you've got charging points all over the automobile, cup holders found down here, and a lot, and I do mean a lot, of piano black plastics in this car, from the steering wheel to the side of the tablet, I call it the tablet, and then all the way here. To continue, this is how you put the car in drive. You start the engine by pressing this. You kill the engine now, but you start it by pressing that, and then it gets the car ready. To put it into drive, you switch it to the right, you put it in neutral, and then reverse, and then the camera comes on, and so on and so forth. Then there's also drive modes to the automobile. Now the drive modes, we can talk about that on a proper review when we do get the car again. But the drive modes, obviously, if you press the button, you get two. You get Eco and Sport. And then there's the recovery mode, where you can select 0, 1, and 2. The recovery mode is as you release the pedal, that's where it actually gets as much, or release the accelerator, that's where it sort of like regenerates and puts power back into the battery. When you leave it in 0, there's no resistance at all and you coast. When you put it in number 1, there's a little bit of a resistance and there's some energy that's put back into the battery. When you put it in number 2, it's much like the Leaf pedal on a Nissan Leaf, or rather the E pedal on a Nissan Leaf, sorry. That when you release it, it slows down dramatically because it's harvesting as much energy as it can to put back into the batteries. And that would actually be the same in this automobile. So much so that when you put it in setting number 2 and you release the accelerator, the brake lights actually come on. That's good to know. Oh, and then there's cubby holders all over the car, including a center armrest that's big enough to fit Jack's bottle with a USB port, and this also fits on the door. So that does it for, apart from the panoramic sunroof, that really does it for the interior of the automobile. Pull that twice, and then I reveal the glory of the W5. Nothing. It's completely covered, which is, it's okay, because truthfully, anything and everything that you need to get to is within reach anyway. You've got your washer fluid there, that's basically it. And then you've got your, what is this, your brake fluid there. And then your 12-volt battery for other functions of the automobile is right here. To tell you frankly, it's not as if that you're going to see much anyway, so allow me to give you the lowdown in figures of what this car has technically underneath the hood. The engine, or rather motor, it's a motor, not an engine. The motor produces 215 horses with 315 Newton meters of torque. Now, what that all translates to is I would be able to hopefully tell you what fuel consumption it can give you. Allow me to give you some semblance of a chart. See, it's based basically on what your Meralco charge is. Now, if you take your Meralco bill and you look on the upper hand side, it'll give you just basically how much per kilowatt hour it costs you. Now, this thing holds a total charge of 52 kilowatts, right? So a full charge, considering that a kilowatt will cost you roughly about anywhere between 9 to 11 pesos, so let's call it 10. A full charge of this car for 350 kilometers or 360 in traffic will run you roughly about 520 pesos. For real. That's number one. Number two is the fact that I know that you guys have been probably been wondering exactly how much this car is. Well, The Nissan Leaf is probably the most affordable EV, full EV car that's available, and it's actually priced pretty well at 2.8 million Philippine pesos, although a bit still out of reach for some people. This Weltmeister W5 is available at about 2.6 million Philippine pesos. Still a bit expensive, some people might say, but considering the options for internal combustion engines like the CR-V and the CX-5, the top of the line CX-5 in fact, it's actually not that bad. Not as many features, but hey, it's not that bad. It's a great start for the fact that you save so much in your pocket in terms of fuel savings, and then you've also got the fact that it's got such a small carbon footprint when it comes to the environment. But we'll talk more about its drive, how it lives with, how to charge it and whatnot on our next review, or rather when we get our hands for a proper review. Thanks for watching everyone, stay safe, see you soon.